Do you know how babies are made? There's a handful, well, more than a handful of high school students who still believe that they can get their significant other pregnant simply by kissing them. I know, pretty crazy. Many adults to this day still don't even know the proper terms for their own human genitalia. That is why today we will be discussing why schools should mandate for more informative and more inclusive sex education for students who are straight, part of the LGBTQ plus community, to prevent things like unwanted STDs, pregnancies, and sexual assault situations. I was a student who was lucky enough to go to a school with a pretty okay sex education program. However, I know that not many people have that kind of privilege. So before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's discuss a bit on how the sex education programs in this country have negatively affected us. So to start off, in a BuzzFeed article, they tweeted out and asked people to share their sex ed fails. One tweet read that even though they went to a performing arts school with a high concentration of queer students, none of the teachers who were teaching sex ed were allowed to mention homosexuality or abortion. That is a pattern that we see a lot with these schools, is that they teach abstinence only as birth control. In a Healthline article, they found out that Mississippi is one of these schools. And in 2016, they ranked third in highest teen pregnancies. So we know that abstinence only is not that effective. On the flip side, in New Hampshire, they changed their sex education programs dramatically, and they dedicated classes to teach on how to prevent STDs and STIs as young as middle schoolers. And they ranked highest in little to no teen pregnancies and teens who have sexually transmitted diseases. Another negative on how the sex education programs have failed the United States is that we do not teach about consent. Typically, they teach girls about their periods and their menstrual cycles and how the boys' body work. However, they do not teach any of that to the men. So they do not get to learn about boundaries and how to respect those boundaries. That leads a lot of women to be dehumanized and objectified, and that leads to sexual assault situations. So that is another thing that sex education could work on, is to have young students understand and respect these boundaries for one another. A solution to the failing sex education system is to mandate all schools across all the states of the United States to mandate more inclusive and more informative sex education for all students. This includes students who are part of the LGBTQ plus community. An example on how you can help is to start locally and start with your local school board. A simple email can get you very far, and it can help your community dramatically. Many students do not know proper birth control and how to prevent these unwanted STDs and pregnancies. Even though for many different households it can be different, and many people hold different values, it's still important that people know their own body and know what their own bodies are capable of. It also all starts at home. Having a safe environment and having a safe environment and a controlled environment on how you can teach your children is very important as well. Let's give this new generation something that older generations didn't have: a safe space to understand safe sex.